Hey guys, K420 back at it again. Little different. New camera, new computer, new software, new house. Quarantine's been good. I can't remember a time in my life where something so awful made me feel at the very same time so stable. And I hope that most of you are making it. We're not. I mean, don't get me wrong here. We're not making millions of dollars. My wife is on collecting unemployment, and as you know, I don't work. I do YouTube, and so therefore, had it not been for the government's insane bill of adding $600 weekly to their normal unemployment, I get it. It was no one's fault that they were out of work, and yes, they should have been compensated fully for their wages. But how do you comport? I'm getting paid $600 extra a week to sit on my ass at home. It takes a really strong work ethic to overpower that, and I think it's going to be really bad for our country. But regardless, that's not why I'm here today. I'm here today because some transcripts got released this last week. You might be hearing things here and there, Twitter, YouTube, Obamagate, Obamagate, Obamagate. You might have heard some things about Michael Flynn. I'm not going to get into all those today. We've got enough. Oops, sorry. We've got enough YouTubers out there focused on those parts of the transcripts for you guys to consume all that. I'm focused on a man who's sitting in jail the worst prison in Europe or London, the Belmarsh prison. It's called. It's basically the what do you call it? Guantanamo Bay of London. Anywho, this man has not only completed his sentence, which he was given 51 weeks for bail jumping, which was extreme, and he was put in this terrorist prison then in isolation, but he's already completed that 51 weeks. And at the end of his 51 weeks, the United States petitioned to extradite him, which therefore he should have been released from the prison in London, and then they could file their petition to extradite him and go through the legal process of doing it. But they know that Julian Assange is a little smarter than that. This man just survived 7 years in the Ecuadorian embassy as a asylum, as a political asylee. So they didn't want to run the risk of another country butting in again and saving him. The United States wants to make sure they get to destroy him before anyone else tries to help him. Why? Because Julian Assange is a man with the most dangerous weapon that in the world, and that's the truth. Julian Assange knows the truth. He knows who gave WikiLeaks those emails. He knows who hacked the DNC and provided him with a thumb drive. Leaked from the DNC, not hacked. We're going to get into that right now. And he has been basically tortured since 2016 until he was dragged out of the embassy here a year or so ago, about 2 years ago. And his basically the new president of Ecuador sold him out to Mike Pence for a loan. And so therefore, Julian was dragged out, put into isolation in Belmarsh, where he was legally tortured with medication. He was given psychotropic meds and then questioned for hours and hours and hours, to the point where the ACLU got involved. This man is still awaiting extradition, not charged with anything. I want you to remember that. Okay, so that's the run over. We're going to make a quick trip back to 2016, December of 2016. That means Donald Trump has been elected president. However, he is still in transition, and President Barack Obama is still in office, and Biden, all them good, they're all doing their thing. So let's just go over a little bit. Obama administration today joined the throngs of anonymous intelligence officials saying the Russian President Vladimir Putin had to have been involved in the cyber espionage operation this way, no, this way, to undermine the U.S. election. The Associated Press reports. Not only does the White House say he was likely involved, but it also asserts the Russian leader probably directly authorized the hack of the DNC. Remember those words. Putin directly authorized the hack of the DNC. The statements from the White House Secretary John Earnest suggest the goal was to help elect Donald Trump. Remember that one too. Who must have known about, Earnest added that Trump must have known about Russian involvement. In the meeting with reporters, Earnest points to an October assessment from the U.S. intelligence community that said only Russia's senior-most officials could authorize these activities. It says it was a subtle but important insinuation Putin had been involved, calling the accusation pretty obvious. Also, it was pretty obvious that Trump had knowledge of the operation, adding that the president-elect may not have been joking when he called out for Russia to find Hillary's deleted emails. Now, I'm not going to play this. You can play it yourself. But I watched that live, and I laughed because, yes, he was joking. He was joking because every day he was getting more and more and more ex-Bernie people joining his campaign, alerting him to these WikiLeaks that were literally small bombs to take down Hillary Clinton. So it wasn't so much that he was doing anything to support Assange or support what he thought was Russia, a Russian hacking. He was supporting the taking down of Hillary Clinton. But here's the Glenn Greenwald thing. It says it's not just the liberals, but the journalists. Watch how many recite that NBC report as truth, even though it's all from two anonymous CIA sources. So this was December of 2016. Glenn Greenwald, very independent journalist. Let me see, what does he work for? I forget the name of the one he works for a lot, but Intercept. He works for the Intercept a lot, stuff like that. Anyway, I'm not going to go through this whole thing because we have a lot to look at. If Russia or some entity was hacking, why did the White House wait so long to act? Why did they only complain after Hillary lost? Very good questions, Mr. President. Very good. Let's move on. So this is the Nation. It's called. This is actually a site called The Nation. I suggest anyone and everyone who has very little background in this DNC hack and really wants to understand what's going on in this country behind while all this lockdown stuff is going on, this stuff that should have been coming out over the last 3 years is suddenly now just coming out. And I don't know if the Trump administration is using it to distract from all these, slurs against him about how he handled coronavirus, or if the timing just so happened that this was being dealt with, and now it's also because technically the FOIA requests for these documents have been in for a very long time. Adam Schiff has been sitting on these transcripts since he was doing. If you remember, he was doing interviews in the basement of the house building there, and it was like a bunker, and you couldn't bring your phone in, and it was a big deal. It was all over the news that Florida Representative Matt Gaetz barged in there, and basically came in with phone and cameras and whatnot, and tried to expose their confidential meeting. Well, this is what they were doing. They were taking interviews. They're doing depositions of people who were involved in this Russiagate thing, and they have actually sat on all of the transcripts that basically would undo the public's perception of Russiagate. Anything that would go against the Democrats' narrative of Russia hacked the emails, Russia ruined, got involved in our election, anything that goes against that gets pushed to the side. So this is the Nation magazine, guys, and a group called the Veterans Intelligence Professionals for Sanity, VIPS. VIPS. Okay, it says it's first of all, they do a lot of sending memos to the president. You'll notice that if you go to their site, you'll notice like when certain things are going on, foreign policy wise, VIPs will send memos to the president just giving their opinions of, especially when the neocons are trying to pump the president up to bomb something, or have the president believe that Syria is chemically attacking their own people, things like that. So anyway, we're gonna skip all that. This is an article by Patrick Lawrence, and it says it's called "A New Report Raises Big Questions About Last Year's DNC Hack." The article largely reported on a published memo prepared by VIPs, which argued, based on their own investigation, that the theft of the DNC emails was not a hack. Now, we all know that a rich man, whose name we shall not say, was the one who provided the emails from the DNC. He was very much a Bernie supporter and very much a lover of freedom and the right to vote and the right for a clean election. And he died a hero doing this. He changed our entire country. Now, most of us know who I'm speaking of. I'm not allowed to say his name or my video will be taken down. However, this memo that VIPs did, this testing that VIPs did, actually proves more and more the case every day that there was no hack. It was a leak, and I'll explain why in a minute. Anyway, it says it was some kind of inside leak that did not involve Russia. Okay. VIPs formed in 2003 by a group of former U.S. intelligence officers with decades of experience working with the CIA and the FBI, the NSA, and other agencies. Previously produced some of the most critical analysis of the Bush administration's mishandling of intelligence data in the run-up to the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Now, that's another thing, is that they're really good about calling, because Bill, I'm going to go through who's on it, but Bill Binney was the man who created ThinThread. That was the very first data collection that the NSA could do with our emails and cell phone calls and things like that, but it was just only supposed to be collect foreign stuff. It was not ever meant to collect American citizens' information. And when he found out the agency was using it to do so, he turned into a whistleblower, and he's become a very prominent whistleblower and a prominent speaker when it comes to the intelligence agencies gone awry. Subsequently, let's see here. All right, here we go. I'm going to go through this all. And basically it says, and although he did not rule out, I'm going to get down to the bottom here. Hang on a second. Here we go. The heart of the VIPS memo centers on two statements. It says, after examining metadata from the Guccifer 2.0 July 5th, 2016 intrusion to the DNC server, independent cyber investigations have concluded that an insider copied DNC data onto an external storage device. Now, what does that mean? That means someone with access to the actual hard drive put a thumb drive into the hard drive and copied down the data. What they did was a speed test. Key among the findings of the independent forensic data investigation is the conclusion that DNC data was copied onto a storage device at a speed that far exceeds internet capability for a remote hack. Of equal importance, the forensics show that copying was performed on the East Coast of the U.S. All right. The third-party analysis of Guccifer 2 claims, including from Adam Carter and the forensicator, and who's another, we'll get into him another day. I have a lot to talk about with the forensicator. And analyzed in the VIPS memo directly contradict these conclusions while raising legitimate questions. But the VIPS memo asserts as a slam dunk the categorical conclusion of a local leak is not supported by third-party analysis. The implications, I don't want to read all this, you guys, because this goes, look, the nation. You need to get on the nation, and look how long this is. I could make 3 videos out of this. I've read it all myself because they add to it all the time. This was actually just the VIPS memo when it started. I'm still scrolling, just so you know. This was actually the VIPS memo in the beginning. However, what they do is they've added to it along the way, and it talks about how the hack was specific. Okay, the first 5 documents that Guccifer posted were stuff stolen from the Trump opposition research. Okay, well that would be perfect. So when that Trump memo, that Trump dossier came out, they would think, of course the Russians created it because they stole the opposition research. No, nobody actually thought that, Hillary, even though that's what you paid for everybody to think. Anyway, this is just so long and it's very, very detailed. It goes through every single step of why it could not be this and why it has to be that. It talks about the forensicators leaker boot drive theory. It also talks about each member of VIPs and so on. It says many ways to 23 megabytes per second. It goes on and on. So, time gaps and throughput, you can go through all of this and figure out exactly how this happened. But the only thing you'll ever get from government or from the media about this hack, Russia, Julian Assange in Russia. Well, I hate to tell you, but there's something that just never felt right because Julian did a interview on Hannity. And Hannity and him, he's always been straight with Hannity. And it was right after he did the reward for the rich kid that was missing. And not missing, but I can't say the right word or else it'll get demonetized. If it matters anyway, they're not paying me anymore. They rang up amount that they were going to pay me, never paid it to me. And everything I get up is yellow. So everything has to be reviewed by the internal system, and if I say certain words, it's over with. I feel like I live in, North Korea already. Anyway, the indictment undercuts Assange on the source of hacked emails. Let's read this real quick. At the beginning of 2017, Julian Assange's biggest media boosters traveled to WikiLeaks refuge inside the Ecuadorian embassy and asked him where he got the leaks that shook up the presidential election. Fox News host Sean Hannity pointed straight to the purloined emails from the DNC committee and Hillary's campaign chairman. Can you say to the American people, now this is Hannity, unequivocally that you did not get the information about the DNC, John Podesta's emails? Can you tell the American people 1,000% that you did not get it from Russia or anyone associated with Russia? Yes, Assange says. We have said repeatedly over the last 2 months that our source is not the Russian government and is not a state party, meaning not a government worker from anywhere, not a member of any government. But how did they make it look like? How did this whole fake Russiagate thing play out to make it look like Julian was lying, to make it look like that Russians were involved in hacking our system? Well, remember them stupid Facebook posts, how the Russians tried to change our elections by spending $100,000 on Facebook ads that were pictures of Hillary and Bernie Sanders as a muscle man and Hillary and Jesus masturbating and stupid stuff. Literally, that's what these memes were of. $100,000 for Facebook ads that wouldn't have changed a single vote. I swear to you, I've seen them myself. And it was a group of people a group of college students working outside of this little company in Russia. And it's so funny because, of course, they were indicted. And what our Department of Justice expected to happen was that nothing would happen. They'd be indicted and they would never come to the United States, therefore would never face justice, and therefore we would never know anything more than what's in the Russian indictment right here. Well, that's not what happened. They sent their lawyers. And their lawyers said, you know what? This is bull honky. This was their right as dual citizen, whatever it was. It was their right to post memes. They had no intention on interfering with an election, and we want to take this to trial. Well, let me tell you something. Robert Mueller buried that because he knew that if this thing went to trial while he was trying to do his big Mueller report thing, the only connection to the Russians that they had would be gone. So they just kept dragging it out and dragging it out and dragging it out, and kept pointing to the fact that these Russians had been indicted. But every time the Russian lawyers were ready to proceed, our government is not. Funny, right? So, last but not least, before we get to the big part, and so let's say, okay, Julian Assange, I told you he did 51 weeks. Julian Assange has been told he has, but this is I've never heard this before ever, and I want you to see how important this is. He must be he must have a target the size of Jamaica on his back because how do you finish your jail time but yet you're forced to stay in jail? That would be like them saying to me, Miss 420, you are sentenced to 3 years in prison, and I do all 3 years, all 36 months. I don't do a day less. And then I go to the door with my stuff, and I say, okay, I'm ready to go now. Did my 3 years, and they say, oh, well, this other country, they said they want to see you, and they've got some questions to ask, and they petitioned to have you extradited, and so we're going to hold on to you until they get around to doing it. I'm not kidding. And there's 2 democratic countries, the UK and the United States, that are doing this. So Julian Assange is sitting in Belmarsh as we speak still. Even they let out child molesters and child porn watchers and murderers and violent felons during this coronavirus thing, who recidivized over and over and over again. But yet Julian, who is high risk and who has been isolated for all these years, already having all kinds of damage from the isolation, was not allowed to go and be with his family and his children. He's been told he has to stay despite completing his sentence. He, at 48, will remain in Belmarsh until he is sent back to America to face hacking allegations. When he was then jailed for 50 weeks after he jumped bail, which he did all his 51 weeks. There he is, being the day he was dragged out of the embassy after spending 6 years basically isolated, because he knew the minute he stepped foot out the front door, the United States was going to scoop him up and do this. So he didn't expect to spend a year in Belmarsh in between. Basically, it just goes on to talk about, them dragging him out, and there's his good friend Pamela Anderson. She's very good friends with him. She visits him in Belmarsh, whatnot. So let's get on to the real quick. Podesta. John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, is a big part of this because his emails came up hacked, right? And that's where we found all those dirty little emails. Oopsie. Right now. Oh, that's just my regular. Okay, that's fine. I was going to say, don't give it, but if anybody wants to email me any hot stories, that's my YouTube address, so you're good. Oh my God, stop. I said okay. Okay, continue. Thank you. Okay. New York Times. John Podesta says Russian spies hacked his emails to sway the election. Uh-oh. I don't know where I went. Hello. Give it a second. Anyway, John Podesta says Russian spies hacked his emails to sway the election. This was just real brief. I don't want to go through it. If you notice, before the election, guys, this happened a month before the election. This is where all those emails kept coming out week by week by week. And it was weird things. Remember, there was a lot of questionable things to do with FBI, child porn symbols, plain, like cheese on your pasta and while playing dominoes and pizza, or I don't remember, but it was insane, guys. And I'm telling you, that's the whole Pizzagate thing came out to cover this. But in reality, the dirt and all of this whole mess that went on is in John Podesta's emails. If you ever really want to know the sickness of our government, that's where you need to start. He's got so many connections in those emails that in so many things that would just it would basically make you want to leave this country. So we're going to talk about what just came out now. Adam Schiff, I told you, had all of those what do you call them, all of those interviews, all of those depositions, and this is from Just the News, guys. Finally, they were declassified after months of FOIA and I want to say Judicial Watch may have got involved. But we're going to, if you notice the headline, CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike was who actually is the only single sole person to ever, company or group of people to ever see inside that DNC server. They're the only ones that know who or if their server had been hacked whatsoever. Okay? They also are ran by Sean Henry, who is ex-FBI. So you decide, which is exactly why the FBI just took his word for it, because he's ex-FBI, and that's the bro code. Well, the bro code just put us 3 years out. For the last 3 years, everyone who I talked about in this video, his life has been put on pause, destroyed. They've been bankrupted. They've been isolated, jailed, you name it, all just because of this, because they were, because this whole rumor started of Russia hacking DNC emails and releasing them to interfere in our election. Well, that's not what got said on the stand, guys. I want you to understand. Like CrowdStrike was the only person to see into that server. There is no guessing. They saw it all. And Sean Henry explained that CrowdStrike found some evidence that information was taken from servers, but it was not conclusive. Declassified documents released by Adam Schiff show the president of CrowdStrike, a computer and network security firm hired to investigate the DNC servers hacking, couldn't say for sure that Russians downloaded the Democratic Party emails. That's a whole lot different from what they've been telling us for the last 4 fucking years. During the interview made public Thursday, Sean Henry explained he found some evidence information was taken, but not conclusive. Responding to a question from Joaquin Castro, he said there is evidence of exfiltration, not conclusive, but indicators of exfiltration of the DNC. Okay. Henry said that based on evidence his firm reviewed, they believed 70 gigabytes of data were exfiltrated from the DNC's network. However, when asked by Mike Conway whether they could unequivocally say it was or not was, I think put that backwards, that it was or was not exfiltrated out of the DNC from what you know of. Henry responded, I can't say based on that, according to the 80-page transcript. There's nothing. They had nothing to show that Russians did anything. The closed-door interview is one of 57 interviews that the committee took place during this 2-year Russian investigation. There's a widespread agreement that the intelligence community that Russia hacked the DNC servers, but questions have long persisted because the FBI investigators did not seize the servers and relied on CrowdStrike's analysis of what occurred during the hacking. Excuse me. It's the Rona. No, I'm just kidding. It's not. That's not even a joke. I'm very healthy, guys. I'm working on staying that way. Henry is a former FBI agent who oversaw the Bureau's cybercrime efforts before he transitioned to private sector to do cyber work. He was interviewed on December 5th on 2017 on Capitol Hill by 5 members of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Reps Castro, Conaway, Adam Schiff, Chris Stewart, and Eric Swallowswell, with the lawyers for the related parties also present. Henry said he was initially contacted by a former Justice Department colleague named Michael Sussman, who became an attorney for the Washington, D.C. law firm Perkins and Coie. Perkins Coie is involved in every last bit of dirt the Democrats have done since before 2016, but definitely since 2016. I wouldn't be surprised if they had much more to do with this than we still know. I know they passed all the money through Hillary Clinton's money. Hillary Clinton gave them the money to pay for the dirty dossier, and they passed it on to Glenn Greenwald, and Glenn Greenwald passed it on to who he had to pass it on to in the State Department. Yeah, so Perkins Coie money laundered for the DNC for Hillary Clinton. Henry said he realized the magnitude of the account, considered that the hack had occurred perhaps by Russian actors during the closely contested 2016 race. So he's just saying that hang on, here we go. He said Sussman unexpectedly emailed him and subsequently told him of a series of communications that he was seeking some cyber security remediation for the DNC, whose computers had been hacked. Henry said he realized the magnitude of the account, considered the hack had occurred perhaps by Russians during the closely contested 2016 race. This isn't Joe's Pizza, he told the committee members. He also said there were two hacks, the second having occurred after the first was addressed. Yeah, the second hack was to get the stuff they needed to go back and find things that were not in, that they didn't care that was going to be released, and so that Guccifer 2 had information to release, so he looked like a real, true actor for us. He was there for the people. Like it looked like Guccifer 2 was a hero, but no, Guccifer 2 was a made up person. Everything that he did was made up. What he released was all useless information that had already been out there, and it was a distraction so that you didn't read into John Podesta's emails. So I can't wait till the rest of these transcripts come out, because one by one I'm going to call out their lies. And my next question is, when, Donald Trump, do you plan on releasing Julian Assange?